Corona Days Professional Development Group. It's me, Jeanette Edwards. I'm here today with Shelton Banks, the CEO of Rework Training Program. I'm happy to have him here. And he's going to talk to us in a few quick minutes about Moment of Clarity. I'll tell you a little more about that in a minute. But first, I have a couple questions for Shelton. Here we go. These are the rules. Okay, you got to pick. You can only pick one. There's one question that you can say both, but if you say it at the wrong one, you know. All right. So, Bulls on the Knicks.
Bulls. Oh.
All right. I don't care. Bulls on the Knicks.
Bulls. Oh, the Bulls.
All right.
Come on.
Harold's or Popeyes?
Ooh. Oh. Oh man, there's only one question I can pick both on. Harold's.
Yeah.
Oh. That's tough right there. I'm gonna say both to this one.
Okay. All right. You said both to that one. Okay.
I need all right. Harold's and Popeyes.
All right. Okay. Deep dish, Chicago style pizza, or New York slice?
Oh, deep dish. Right? I'm glad I picked my both on my Harold's because man, deep dish.
All right, guys, you listening? So I'm asking Shelton these questions. It's fun, but I'm also asking them because we're gonna have a giveaway we're gonna have a couple of giveaways during the series. So the people who get the most correct answers to these questions as we ask our guests on this Professionals of Excellence series. All right, you done used up your free card. Girl, dad, boy, dad.
Oh, girl, dad.
Girl, dad. All right, okay. I figured you'd be like girl, dad now, but maybe both for later. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Life.
Yes, I'm a New York slice all day. I don't know who said that because you didn't give us, but yes, I'm a New York City slice all day. I don't know about this Chicago deep dish. You know, Uno's is even going out of business all over the world.
Y'all ain't never had it. You ain't lived till you lived.
All right, this is the last one. Starbucks to Dunkin'.
Oh, we going Starbucks. I got
Starbucks.
I got the points. I'm on a mission to get enough points where I could just take the whole crew with me to Starbucks and just be like, here, let me get all this coffee off of y'all for the squad.
All right, guys, I'm going to turn it over to Shelton in a moment. So again, the topic is Moment of Clarity. He's going to talk to us today about job hopping. I think we've all been there. Many of us are there right now. He's going to talk about the Career Slingshot. I'm interested in that one. And I'm also interested about the third objective is learning the DEI game. So I'm going to give you a little bit about Shelton, and then I'm going to turn it on over. And we want an interactive presentation, so drop your comments and drop your questions. So a little about Mr. Banks. So he's from a low-income neighborhood in the Windy City, a.k.a. the city of broad shoulders and deep dish pizza. So I knew he was going to pick that. South side of Shelton Banks has turned a blue-collar hustle into a white-collar hoodie. I love it. Shelton's come-up story shows that life isn't determined by the cards you're dealt, but how you play your hand. Using lessons learned from every job he hated, he leveraged transferable skills to navigate from entry-level roles to VP positions, becoming the first in his family to ever make over six figures, all before being hired in 2018 as CEO of Rework Training, a 501c3 workforce development nonprofit organization. Shelton believes in more than one path to success and has helped empower hundreds of Black and brown people of color, frequently overlooked or told that they aren't qualified, to secure employment in technology sales, one of tech's best kept secrets. On average, he helps individuals, often without a college degree or traditional experience, earn a base salary of $55K plus benefits by helping them to identify their strengths and remove barriers. Over the last 3 years, he has partnered with companies like DocuSign, Salesforce, LinkedIn, Sprout, Social, and more, changing the way organizations look at DEI, CSR, and talent by taking an innovative and non-traditional approach. Shelton is a certified DEI consultant, Gallup certified strengths coach, and co-founder of Sales for the Culture. When asked about his formula for success, what does he say? A little talent, a lot of hard work, a dash of finesse, and then enter the up, Up, down, down, left, right, left, right. BA cheat code.
Cheat codes.
Uh-huh. And
Cheat
his
codes.
tagline is, "Are you ready to get this work?" I'm ready to get this work. Mr. Shelton Banks, I'm going to turn it over to you and remove myself. Thank you guys for the comments. I'm going to start putting them up on the screen. Keep them coming. Keep your questions coming. I'm going to remove myself right now. And then it's all you, Mr. Banks.
All right, man. Yeah, so I gotta keep the comments coming. You moved me. Oh, yeah, I'm back. So anybody that caught the title "Moment of Clarity," not sure if you all know where I got that from, but I'm a Jay-Z fan. "Moment of Clarity" from the Black album, and the reason I put that is because I grew up. My bio mentioned grew up in the hood, Chicago, Illinois, and from anybody that's from a low income neighborhood or just like grew up in a hard time, sometimes you need that moment of clarity just to help you power and get through. And so I thought it'd be fitting to talk about a moment of clarity. And of course, so as my bio mentioned, I'm a 6-figure CEO, right? And I help people get jobs for a living, help them get jobs at tech companies, as the ones mentioned like Salesforce and Microsoft and Google and Facebook and all these cool tech companies. But I wasn't always here, and I've had a whole bunch of moments of clarity in my life, which honestly helps me now help other people find those same moments of clarity. And so let's get into it. So I'll tell you a little bit about me. So as mentioned again, from the south side of Chicago, what does that mean? So the average median household income of a neighborhood that I grew up in was $8,000 per household. So grew up in a house with my grandfather, my mom. Mom was a single parent. And of course, my grandfather had multiple kids. And so we all lived in the same house. My grandparents, my mom, and my cousins lived in a single family house on the south side of Chicago. And so you can imagine I went to a public school. And so the resources at the public school were limited too. And that was my ecosystem. And so I'm pretty sure a lot of you all know what that means if like you grew up in this ecosystem. And I didn't know I was, poor or lived in a low income neighborhood at the time. I thought we were straight. I was happy. Still am happy. But I thought I was happy at the time. My grandparents, they sheltered me from that world outside of our ecosystem. And I would say like it stayed that way until I probably turned 13. I had my first interaction going to the north side of Chicago, which isn't as black as the south side of Chicago. And I was exposed to like this world outside of my ecosystem. And in that moment, I realized like there was nothing that I could do, that I was behind. Like I was a smart kid growing up in high school and grammar school, smart kid. And my uncle, he introduced me to this private school. He said like, "Hey, I work at the school. Come check it out with me." And I went and I sat through one of the classes, and these kids were learning, algebra in 6th grade. And meanwhile, we're still struggling just the basic concepts. And I realized in that moment, like, man, I'm going to need to do a lot more than what my Chicago public schools provide. Fast forward, I get to high school. I get accepted into a pretty good high school. And I unfortunately had to drop out. And I didn't drop out because I'm like, this is what I want to drop out because I couldn't keep my grades up. But I actually dropped out and started working early, like I'm pretty sure some of you all can relate to. So I dropped out of a high school at my junior year because my mom has bipolar. I'm not sure if many of you all know what that's like to have a family member that has a mental illness, but my mother had a mental illness. And before she had this episode, this bipolar episode, we had actually moved out of my grandfather's house. And so we went from living all in this one house to my mom, single parent, worked hard enough to buy her first house, which I thought was huge of me just like moving on up. And so when this mental illness happened of her having to be admitted to the hospital, I didn't want to go back to living in my grandparents' house. And so I said, I got to find a job. And unfortunately, in that day and age, you being a college dropout, there's not many people that'll give you a job. I had to do the typical things of searching for a job, like Craigslist. Anybody ever looked on Craigslist for a job or tried to use monster.com or indeed.com? And I feel like I'm dating myself just a little bit, but I did the old fashioned things of Craigslist, trying to look for a job, the Chicago Tribune. And it weren't that many jobs that, again, would hire a person with just a GED. Not at all. And so I took the only job that would hire me is those advertisements that says, hey, come sell insurance door to door, or come sell Cutco knives and Kirby vacuums. And that's what I end up selling, Cutco knives and Kirby vacuums from the age of 16 to 18. So I was able to get my GED and everything in between. So Kirby vacuums, Cutco knives, did the little mall kiosk thing. I mean, yeah, Kirby vacuums. I did any hustle job to make ends meet. And that worked until I was able to get my GED. And after I got my GED, I said, man, selling vacuums is difficult. Going to people's houses to cut pennies to try to sell a $600 set of knives, that's also difficult. And oh yeah, my single mom, by the way. So like during that time though, I was decently good at something. So between 16 and 18, when my mom was getting back on her feet mentally, my Kirby vacuums and Cutco knives money paid for the mortgage. It paid for the mortgage. I was able to make ends meet and pay for myself. I also enrolled myself in homeschool, and so I helped my mom purchase a home between the ages of 16 to 18, selling Cutco knives and Kirby vacuums. But at any rate, I got my GED at 18, and I said, like, man, I gotta do something else. And so, like most people in that age bracket, I started to just look for jobs. I'm like, man, I'm just looking for opportunity. I need somebody to give me an opportunity, to train me, to get my foot in the door, because I know I'm good at what I do. I'm cold. Like, I'm going to just get my foot in the door, and we're going to be all right. And I didn't find that, man. I found jobs. I worked at Applebee's and Red Lobster and all of the hourly jobs that people oftentimes get stuck in without a college degree like myself, and sometimes with a college degree. I've seen plenty of people do, some of the people I was working with at, Red Lobster and Applebee's would be much older than me with college degrees. And I mean, stuck at Applebee's, and y'all would listen to their story and they couldn't make it. And so nonetheless, I job hopped. I went from job to job looking for an opportunity, right? Not an opportunity to make money, because like making money, like anybody can make money, right? Minimum wage is making money. I job hopped looking for an opportunity for someone to take me under their wing, and really just the opportunity to say like, hey, if I get good at what this thing is, if I get good at it, the way I'm good at it, right? Not the way a college degree or anybody else, but the way Shelton Banks is good at something. Can my trajectory, will I see this incremental growth of me just going straight up, right? Will I be able to make more money and do more things? Will I be able to climb the ranks at this organization? And just not even at the organization, will Shelton Banks be able to grow? One of the goals I set for myself early on was like, hey, every year, if only $1, I want to make more money next year than I made this year, right? That was my goal. Make more money next year than I made this year. And so, at the age of 19, I said like, all right, job hop. And eventually I end up, after job hopping and all these dead end jobs, I thought I was going to end up working with my hands. And so I end up going into carpentry. Anybody who knows working with the hands, you're working outdoors and indoors, and it's laborious work. And I said like, man, I don't think that I'm better than this situation. I don't think that I'm better than anybody, but I said, man, I'm thinking bigger than a lot of people, and this isn't it. And so I end up applying to seeing a help wanted sign in a bank for part-time teller position. And I applied for this part-time teller position, and I did what a lot of people do, put together a resume that I didn't have any professional help building my resume. I did what a lot of people do when it comes to resume support. I went to Google and I went to Microsoft Word, and I used their template, and I tried to fill in as much as I could based off examples of resumes that I found off Google and the template that Microsoft Office provided for me. I created a resume. And it's crazy because at the time I didn't know that, an ATS system was a real thing, and that those ATS systems flag you for words. But like, I created this template, and for some crazy reason, a recruiter called me and said like, hey, Shelton, we want you to meet with this hiring manager. And so I did this great job of entertaining the recruiter, and I get this job, this position to meet with this hiring manager and go through this interview process. And I mean, I fought for this interview. I fought for this interview. I fought throughout this interview process. And all I remember is saying like, hey, I know I don't have this, but I do have this. I can do this. Like if somebody just gives me an opportunity, I know I don't have this, but I did something like this, which is almost my introduction to transferable skills. So all the Kirby vacuums that I sold and all the Cutco knives that I demonstrated and all the Applebee's tables that I've taken, I was able to relate all of those skills almost perfectly to the job description of how what I did then was like what I would be doing if they gave me this opportunity. And so eventually the fourth interview, and it's part-time teleposition, typically telepositions only have 2 to 3 interviews. I had 4 just because the hiring manager said, I don't know why. His name's Mike Rochelle. I'll never forget it. It's the guy that gives me the opportunity. Mike Rochelle says, Sheldon, I don't know why I'm about to hire you, but I'm gonna make you this offer for this part-time teleposition, making $19 an hour, which was now the most I've ever made. $19 an hour was the most I ever made at the time without a college degree. And I'm like, man, Mike, thank you, part-time teleposition. I get my foot in the door, and from there I go from a part-time teller to a full-time teller, and that didn't come without like costs. And so you could imagine like, 19-year-old Shelton, south side of Chicago, in the banking industry, I was rough around the edges. I mean, I'm still rough around the edges, but I was really, really rough around the edges. And you could imagine that the banking industry isn't the place where you could say, like, let me bring my whole self to work. They look for this level of professionalism that I like to call it. It's kind of fake professionalism to me, but that's another story. But they want a level of professionalism. And so while I use my Cutco skills to be able to convince people to open up checking accounts, to sign up for credit cards, my Cutco and Kirby knife selling skills did that job as a part-time teller. But the professionalism thing was kind of like, man, hands-on training. And so between 19 and 20, I got rolled up more times than you could think of for doing more unprofessional things at the bank. That was just like, man, why am I getting written up like this? I attended Morgan Park High School, Lawson. But like more times, I got rolled up more times than not. More times than not. And so, but that didn't stop me. So I performed well, and I was learning as I go. And so I went from part-time teller to full-time teller, full-time teller to personal banker. And at that moment, I want to say as a personal banker, I went from making $19 an hour to now a salary of $28,000 a year, which again, for a 20-year-old making $28,000 a year, I thought was pretty noteworthy. And I stayed there in my office until I got fired. So I got fired from the bank, fired from the bank, got rolled up and fired. Went from Cutco. I said, started from the bottom. Now we here. And I thought like, boom. I thought I was doing it and got fired. And man, that was a hit to my blow to my self-esteem. Like, man, you so GED imposter syndrome quickly set in of like, man, would you have gotten fired if you would have went to college? Would you have gotten fired if you would have did things differently? And it didn't stay in for long, because of course, now that I'm used to making that $28,000, the salary position, $28,000 a year, I'm used to that money. And so I'm like, I got to get back into it. Right. And so I took what I learned from National City Bank and I added it to my resume, and I ended up getting a job at JP Morgan Chase as a personal banker, and end up getting my Series 6 and 63 as a personal banker. So my investment licenses. And now I'm at this point, I'm no older than 23. I want to say I'm 22, 23 in that age range. And from personal banker to licensed personal banker, I then became a branch manager. So a branch manager at JP Morgan Chase with no college degree, with a GED. I'm now managing people, right? And with that management of people came, again, like more mistakes, more things to learn. And so I managed 3 different branches on the south side of Chicago. And doing that, I hired, interestingly enough, here's one of the many lessons I learned. I hired all the bros and cousins that would have normally not gotten a job at a bank. I started to hire them because I said, here's the opportunity for me. I got some power. I'm not going to forget where I came from. And so I started to hire people that were rough around the edges like me, in attempts to train them up. Unfortunately, I wasn't experienced enough to do that. And I ended up getting fired from JP Morgan Chase. got fired for reversing fees for people that will overdraw their account, reverse too many fees. And so got fired from JP Morgan Chase. And now it's the second time I can get fired on the books of like, man, I've learned a lot, but I got fired. And now that was an even bigger shot to my self-esteem, because I went from making 28K a year to now I'm making 55K a year. So I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right as far as year over year. I'm growing and I'm making more money. But now I get fired a second time from a bank. And I'm like, man, where do we go from here? And so now, fired with a GED with this experience, I go to Google again. And now it's a little bit different, because now this experience that I've gotten, that I've worked my way up and gotten, the interview that I had the first time at a entry level type position of like, hey, I can do this, give me an opportunity. It doesn't work the second time around when you're now trying to go into management and I'm trying to get in at this 55 plus mark. Again, my goal is to make more each year. And so now I'm applying for positions, those mid-level positions and not entry-level positions, with my copy and pasted resume. And unfortunately, I wasn't on the other side of the hiring decision like I was at JP Morgan Chase. And so I was getting shot down left and right. I mean, I was getting shot down hard. And unfortunately, I couldn't find a job, a $55,000 plus job. And so I end up taking a step back and I got a job at Nordstrom's. Because what do you do once you know, like, man, you used to working one type of job and you can't get the type of job that you want, the money that you want. Most people end up, unemployment eventually runs out and you end up having to take something to make ends meet. And so I took a job as a stylist at Nordstrom's and it was great. It was great. It was like, all right, I'm back in the hustle mode. Here's my opportunity to hustle again. It wasn't Kirby vacuums or Cutco knives, but I said, like, let's do it again. And so from a stylist at Nordstrom's, I quickly graduated up the ramp. And now, interestingly enough, I was making more money at Nordstrom's than I was as a personal banker. But for anybody in retail, how long does that last? Like, retail is fun, but man, weekends, they get old quick. Holidays, holiday music and holiday customers, it gets old quick too. And like, do you really want to retire from retail is what I asked myself, what 24-year-old Shelton asked himself. Like, man, do you really want to get fired from retail? And so while I was making, 50 plus at, 55, I want to say 50 to 55 at Nordstrom's. And that's all right money. I'm giving up my weekends, nights and weekends. It's just like, oh man, this is tough. And so I end up doing a very specific Google search. And I tell anybody that Google could be your best friend, your best education. In fact, they now have an educational system. You get certified on Google, but I've been certified longer than Google has been certifying people. But I went to Google and I typed in a very specific search. I typed in top 50 places for an 80s baby to work for in Chicago was my very specific Google search. And so here's another lesson to be learned. Like, Google can be your best friend, especially the more specific you are, the better. And so my very specific Google search of top 50 jobs for an 80s baby to work for in Chicago introduced me to the tech industry. And I applied for a position at Groupon, and Groupon called me back the same week that I applied, said, hey, come in for an interview. And so I'm saying, like, here is my shot. I'm about to get out of this retail job. And I say, I apply for a manager position. I go in and I apply for this manager position. And interestingly enough, I'm 23, 24 years old, and I'm interviewing with somebody that's much younger than me. Not much younger than me. I mean, but they were 21. White guy, fresh out of college. And I'm like, dude, I'm older than you. I got more life experience than you at this point. I've managed at a branch before. I've like started from the bottom. Now I'm here. I'm used to this mentality. Like, I should be a manager. And they told me no. They said, no, I don't think you're qualified for a manager position. And I'm like, how could I not be qualified, y'all? Like, and I'm pretty sure some of y'all out there that's like qualified. Like, y'all qualified for real to make money. And this man told me that I wasn't qualified for a manager position. So I said, all right, well, but he said, we like you. And we're going to offer you this lesser position of like this business development rep role in the tech space. And so I said, sure, I'll take it. Can I see the comp plan? Let me see what y'all talking about. And so they showed me the comp plan for this business development position. They showed me the salary that I make, $32,000, $32,500 was the base salary plus this comp plan. And based off my experience on seeing this comp plan and based on gambling on myself of like, hey, you said I'm not qualified, but I bet on myself. Based on this comp plan, I know that I can outperform what you all think I'm going to make on this comp plan because I'm going to bet on myself. So while you all are saying like this is what you'll probably make, I'm saying like, no, I'm better than that. I'm so like if I done sold vacuums and knives before, I know I'm going to be good at this because sales isn't like the used car. Like this is about building relationships. Like I can do this. And so I took the position as a business development rep at Groupon, making $32,500 a year base salary plus comp. And by the third month on the job as a business development rep, I brought in a $11,000 paycheck at Groupon of commission, $11,000. And the next month after that, I brought in a $9,000 commission check at Groupon, base plus commission. This is the commission. We ain't talking about my base salary that I was making. And month after month, I start killing the game on the commission checks. In fact, I still show people my comp checks. So if anybody reaches out to me and says like, Sheldon, let me see one of these comp checks. I don't believe you. Let me see this $11,000 you're talking about. Like ask me, I got no problem. I keep receipts on deck for this very reason. But like I start banking 11,000, 9,000. And they quickly started to regret like, man, this dude isn't entry-level material. But this is the slingshot effect that I'm talking about of like, sometimes you're qualified and sometimes you're trying to get a position here and somebody's not letting you get here. So sometimes in order to get here and surpass here, sometimes like a slingshot, you got to pull down on the thing. You got to put yourself and load yourself up and gamble that like, man, if I pull back to a lesser position, I'm going to slingshot forward to a better position, right? Just because I'm going to gamble on myself, right? And especially if an opportunity, if a company presents itself with upward mobility. And so I slingshot myself forward quickly, right? It wasn't like, oh, we want you to wait in this position for a year to get promoted. But like they slingshotted me quickly. Within 6 months, I was promoted into a position that did not exist. So they promoted me to a team called The Future Is Now, where I was now responsible for a Groupon saying like, hey, we want to sell this product to market. Like, here's the product. You go ahead and figure out how to sell it. Like I almost created my own position, right? Where it's like, man, I got to work on a team that was almost a startup within a startup. And man, it gave me more experience. It gave me nothing but experience. And it wasn't without cost. So again, so now we're going to talk about diversity and inclusion. So I was on a team that I was the only Black person on this team. In fact, when I first came and started in the tech industry, I was on a team with one other Black person. And then outside of that, when I got promoted, it wasn't that many people that looked like me. In fact, the stats around about tech being predominantly white, 80% white male, very true. I would say like at the company, I was probably 2% of the Black population. At the company, even less on my team. And that didn't necessarily bother me because I really didn't understand why. I didn't understand why. And while I said like diversity and inclusion was important, I never really tapped or used that angle to promote or get me a place, right? Like it was never about me being Black because I'm like, man, I'm going to show up and y'all going to pay me, right? That's what matters to me. But interestingly enough, I would always say like, they would say is diversity and inclusion important? And I would always say, like, yeah, it's important. And I would make money from diversity and inclusion. How would I make money from diversity and inclusion, you ask? Somebody asked that. How do you make money from diversity and inclusion? I don't see it yet. But if you ask the question, I'll tell you how I made money from diversity and inclusion. Is that while I would primarily focus, while I was given a book of business to build relationships with and call into, while I was given a book of business, that book of business was given to me by my 98% white company. And so you could imagine what color the customers I was calling into work. They were 98% white. And so for me, while I had the ability to call into those 98% white customers, what was comfortable for me was to call into businesses that look like me. Because I noticed like, man, why aren't businesses that look like me or that I would shop at on this book of business? And so I would make it a point to go and say like, let me actually go call into some businesses of color that look like me. And while I would get pushback, initially of like, man, you're calling this business in this hood? You calling a business on the south side of Chicago trying to get them to do business? Like, man, that business got bars on the window. Are you sure they do business there? That's what they would say. For me, I'm like, man, this is why I do business at. And so I would help my community by introducing them to the product that I was the tech company that I worked at, right? And so not only was I driving revenue, but I was helping small businesses in my neighborhood get on Groupon. So I'm making money from Groupon. The small businesses that I was working with was making business money from Groupon. And no other person around me, yeah, this is that Groupon, no other person around me was doing this because no other person around me looked like me. Right? Nobody, and when I tell you that my coworkers would be shocked because how it would sound on the phone when I was calling a white business. Oh yeah, I could talk that game. It's like, oh, nice to meet you, da 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 da. If I was calling a black business, like, hey girl, what's going on? Hey man, what's up, my guy? How you feeling? Right? Like it was just a complete. It was like, oh man. And they would look at me like, man, who are you talking to? Like, you making money like that? And it's like, yeah, man, this is how I make money. This is how I make money. Like, I just swagging you on the phone. Like, it would just feel so good. No code switch needed. Like, we just don't buy. I'm my whole self. And they would say, like, hey, Shelton, can you find more people that look like you to work here? And it's funny how many barriers there were. It was like the barriers were endless. It was like, man, we want them to have a college degree. It was a whole list of requirements they needed. And I'm like, dude, this whole list of requirements ain't like this ain't cutting it. Like people can't live up to this list of requirements. They can't live up to this requirement. Now, speak of code switch, I'm pausing on this list of requirements, right? Because I don't advocate for code switching. I don't like code switching because like, man, I said it, but I don't like it, right? And I had to come to grips with myself. If I was to take a pause about this code switching, what is code switching? Is when you put on like a different you, right? You put on a different you, and I'll tell you all why I don't like code switching. Is that so? You're putting on a different you. You're like acting a certain way to fit in to a certain environment, right? Now, that's a difference. Google it. Yep. It's a difference between code switching and being relatable. And so I did code switch at a time, but let me tell you what code switching will do to you, right? So when you think about diversity and inclusion, now I'm off on a tangent real quick. When you think about diversity and inclusion, there's steps to get to inclusion. So as a person, as a black man, let me tell you where I started. I started at diversity and exclusion, right? I was like, I'm diverse, clearly, but I feel excluded from what's going on. Why? Because like I can't relate to anybody that's here. So I naturally feel excluded, right? Now, if I'm trying to get to inclusion, let me tell you the next step that happens. Diversity and assimilation then happens, right? Diversity and assimilation, which in part is kind of like code switching, right? Where you're assimilating to fit the environment, to feel more comfortable, to get to inclusion, right? So diversity, it goes from a diversity and exclusion to diversity and assimilation, right? Where you're trying to fit this environment or you're code switching. And I don't feel good. I'm telling you, like diversity and assimilation, like it gets to a point where you like, man, I can't take this no more. And so you hit this diversity and differentiation mode where now you're clearly different. And either one or two things will happen. You'll be different and it'll work out and you may get to inclusion, or you like, man, I'm just going to be me, my whole self, no matter what. Or it may not work out and you may get frustrated and then you go back to diversity and exclusion, which is my tangent about code switching. And so like be your whole self is the moral of that story. But back to so they're saying, Shelton, can you help us find more people? And again, anybody I would send to them, unfortunately, it was like, man, all these barriers you all present, like, oh, their resume is not good enough. They don't know how to interview. They don't know, like they keep getting hit. They keep getting knocked out by the ATS system. And it's saying like, oh, we don't think you're a good fit. Like all of these excuses were then created. And I'm like, man, how can we, like what, these excuses ain't cool. Like you want diversity and inclusion, you want to be more diverse, but yet you keep shooting down people because they're not good enough and you're not good enough. It's like, man, well, I'm not good enough either then, because these my people. Like we come from the same hood. Like we're cut from the same cloth, and my hustle is they hustle. Like I'm not special. I'm not the special black person. Like, I was a black person that was given the opportunity. And all I'm pretty sure some of the folks that I rock with need is the same opportunity to make something of it, just like I was given, right? So this isn't about me being special. This is about people needing the opportunity. And so end up leaving Groupon. I go to another company called Sprout Social. Sprout Social, man, voted one of the best places to work by Glassdoor 4 years in a row, and love my time at Sprout Social. At Sprout Social, after my first year at Sprout Social, of like, man, things are going great. I'm approached by this nonprofit organization called Rework Training. The very Rework Training we work for, they have been around for 2 years, so started in 2016. And they approached me and say, hey, Shelton, we clearly understand that this diversity issue is a thing. That diversity is a thing. We want to do something about it. Help us out. Like, would you be willing to lead this organization and help fix this diversity problem? And so I talked to the folks at Sprout Social, and I say, hey, Sprout, like, this organization, I want to go do this. And the folks at Sprout, they say, Shelton, go do it. We support you. And so for the last 3 years, I've been the CEO of Rework Training, which helps people that look like me and people I like to call from untapped, overlooked communities, because I hate the words underserved, underrepresented, under anything, because I never consider myself as under anything. In fact, if you tell me I was under something, I don't, that's not me. I'm not under anything. And so I like to use the words people that are untapped potential, overlooked individuals, people that have been overlooked by the traditional way of doing things. We remove barriers. And so throughout this program, through the last 3 years, what the program looks like is that we provide everything that's needed to get out of, to help remove barriers out of people's way, right? And so what does that look like for me? So I know I needed a resume when I was coming up, and I had to Google and copy and paste my own resume. And so Rework, individuals, if you're a part of the community, we provide free resumes. So resume writing is a thing. And so I hire professional resume writers, and I work with small businesses that do resume writing for a living. I work with them to get any candidate that needs their resume done. We do their resume. Interviews is a thing. So most people don't understand that interviewing has a format, right? Where it's a format to an interview. If someone asks me, tell me about yourself, say somebody, you get the tell me about yourself question, that's not an opportunity. There's an answer that you should have to the tell me about yourself question, right? And so we help people prepare for interviews in that way. Same with the actual question. So beyond the like really understanding and telling your story, in a way that conveys the strengths that you bring to the table, really answering the questions, the behavioral questions that are often asked at an interview. We help individuals prepare for the interview in that way. And then, of course, the biggest piece, we provide social capital. So in the game of like, it's not what you know, but who you know sometimes. And that's a very real thing. It's not what you know and who you know, but it's who you know. And in the world where nepotism and favoritism and getting to know people plays a part, we provide that social capital. And so we work with a little bit over 100 companies. We have over 500 volunteers, individuals that say they care about diversity and inclusion. They actually mean it, because they volunteer their time, energy, and effort, not only in mentoring individuals to help them get jobs and positions at companies, these tech companies, but they also sponsor them. So they go beyond mentorship of like, oh, I'm going to help you, but they actually vouch for them. They co-sign for them. They co-sign for their career. So that's what I do now, and also help organizations by means of diversity and inclusion. And so I work with organizations that are focused on diversity and inclusion. I'm not a fan of the typical traditional diversity and inclusion training that most organizations do when it comes to it's almost just an intellectual exercise. We take diversity and inclusion a step further by actually providing and facilitating opportunities to volunteer with people that want to be diverse and inclusive. I'm a firm believer that you can't be diverse and inclusive professionally and not be diverse and inclusive personally, meaning that you should have Black friends, not friends that are Black. And that goes the same for Black people, that you should have white friends, not friends that are white, if we're really talking about diversity and inclusion. And so like I take this holistic approach to diversity and inclusion that really moves the needle. And so That's what I'm about, right? Like taking the cheat codes that I learned throughout my career. And I feel like that most people have gotten of like, man, hustling, working hard and helping individuals to really tap into their strengths and use those in a way to hit goals and to make more money and feel good about doing it year over year. So that's who I am now. And so now moving forward, let's talk about where we're going. You know, my goal by the end of the by the end in the next 5 years. So we're in Chicago, where we were in Chicago only. We're scaling, and so we will be launching Rework nationally by July of this year. And so you look to see Rework training in a town near you. I look to be even more Googleable than I am now. So you can Google Shelton Banks and some stuff will actually pop up on my name. But now I'm trying to sponsor other people along the way, right? So not just entry-level roles, but individuals that are looking to get into philanthropy. I'm here for it. And anybody that's looking, if you're looking to get into something, I'm like, man, how can I collaborate and help somebody get to the next level? That's what I'm all about. So any questions, I'm down to answer them. Anytime, you just want to shoot the breeze and like, Sheldon, can I pick your brain? I'm here for it. Like I'm here for it. I'm here for the advancement of people of color. And that's my story. You could visit me at sheltonbanks.com. That's the thing. You can email me at get at sheltonbanks.com. It's my email address if you're trying to get in contact with me. So get at sheltonbanks.com. And then outside of that, I'm an open book. And so any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to hit me up. But man, love it. I'm here for it.
I love it. Now I have some questions from the chat, and guys, drop your questions in if you have more. So the first one I remember from the chat is Latanya, who's in Arkansas, wanted to know. She says she loves that you know your story, something like that. You know your story and you're telling it. Were you a Toastmaster?
No, this is straight like practice. Like keep trying it and Google and a whole bunch of books. So I try to read like a book, one new book every 2 weeks. Yeah, you see what I did? I'm glad somebody caught it, man. Good, sheltonbanks.com. Glad you caught it. All right, yeah, but I try to be one new book a week. And so anybody that wants to get into, I feel like if you want to own your own business, one skill that you probably will need to pick up outside of sales, right? So selling is a thing and has a format, right? You probably need to pick up copyright. And so most copywriting books, it kind of helps you to develop almost an outline to speak to, kind of mental outline. I almost do this so often now as far as my story that is just, I'm in a nonprofit space. So you got to be able to tell a good story.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you for that question, Latanya. All right. So, Rhonda, you had a question about jobs. I think it was something along the lines of, you've been so talented, you have so many positions. What is your favorite work around something like that?
Yeah, anything with people. I feel like, I think, and I'm making some content right now around people. When I say I work in sales, I often feel like there's this stigma sometimes people create around sales of like, I'm not good at selling. And I'm like, man, listen, you ain't gonna make it nowhere in life if you're not good at selling. Like no matter who you are or what industry you go into, you always gonna be trying to sell somebody. You're gonna be trying to sell your boss on getting time off. You're gonna be trying to sell your boss on a promotion. In fact, if you're interviewing for a job right now, you're in the toughest sales position of your life. Right? If you're interviewing for a job right now, so imagine like the sales process of like you're going to fill out 100+ job applications cold. You're going to send out cold emails to recruiters. You're going to get on the phone with recruiters cold to try to pitch yourself to a recruiter to get them to buy you, to sell you to the hiring manager, in which you're going to get on the phone with a hiring manager to sell yourself to a hiring manager. The hiring manager doesn't know how much you cost. So eventually you're going to have to negotiate how much you cost with the hiring manager, all to get more no's than yeses. You're going to get more of those automated emails saying, well, you're not a good fit or we moved on with somebody else, then you are going to get job offers. That's a sales job.
Yeah.
So if you don't know how to if you don't know that structure, which is kind of what we teach, like we teach sales as a life skill, you don't know how to sell yourself, you got, good luck. Good luck.
Well, you can always apply for rework and they can teach you
Slide
rework training, right?
Yeah, let me find
Yeah.
emoji icon, slide through the DMs. Come on.
That's right. Okay. So, guys, I got great comments. I don't have any more questions in here, but I have a couple of questions that are not the questions from what you said. I have a couple questions. So, I do a lot. I vet everybody that comes on the stage. So, that little.
No, you a dig. All right, let's
I did a little, snooping and investigating.
Right.
So I hear say tell, maybe you were about 12 or 13. You got a district award. What was that for?
12,
I saw you and your mom in the paper.
Oh man, I don't know what I did. I did something.
Yeah, what was that for?
I think it was like a science project.
Science project. I know you were a smart guy.
Yeah,
I want everybody to know that you were always a smart guy. You know why? Because there are so many smart men and women, black and brown, right, who miss the opportunity because the opportunity is never given to them. So I want everybody to know that this is not like, oh, he was backed in a corner, he read 5 books and he figured out this is how I'm going to make it. That you always had it. You just didn't have the opportunity, right? That's that untapped you're talking about, that overlooked untapped, right?
I would say, and I had, but yep, overtop, right? I had potentials of it, right? I had like the work ethic to get it done. Now, there's a lot of pieces I didn't have, right? Where it's just like, all right, and it's a lot of pieces that I feel that historically, we talk about kind of the nuances of historical issues, systemic issues. There are pieces that we're gonna be behind on, and if you're trying to catch up, you're gonna need to do it differently.
Yeah.
You're gonna need to do it differently if you're trying to catch up. But yeah, 100%. Like see the opportunity.
And so, okay, this is another blast in the past question. So, how many kids were in the house at Grandpa's and your granddaddy's?
It was not kids. So it was ma. 1, 2, 3, 4. I said 10 because it's about 10 of us.
10.
Like it was. It was a lot of us in the house, and it was only 3-bedroom house.
Hey, that's how we did it.
Yeah.
They don't do it like that much anymore, but I think of my grandparents' house. One day I counted with my grandparents how many kids they had come through the house. Whether it was us or kids they took that became family. You know how that goes. And it was like 30 some odd kids that weren't their kids. It was just kids and kids and kids. So that's how we do it. All right.
Some everybody, uncles, nieces, nephews, cousins, all like rotating through.
Yeah, you come from a time and a space. All right, cool. I love it. So let me get to I got one more question from my investigation. So I hear tell that you read all these books. You did another Google search. Could you tell us about that Google search about?
So let's talk about imposter syndrome, right? So again, like every time I had a situation where I'm like, something is wrong. Is it because I didn't go to college? Like, am I missing something? And so my very specific Google search, I Googled like what books are the equivalent of an MBA. And now I do it every year of like, man, what's the equivalent reading material of a master's degree in business? And I got a nice list of books that were dope that I read. And I'm talking about and it's funny because now I get into conversations with people that have MBAs or masters. In fact, I want to say 25% of the people that come through Rework have a graduate degree. And I'm like, man, I can talk about some stuff. Like you can't with me, boy. I could talk about some stuff, right? But I do it in my way. It's not like I wasn't taught bad habits from school, outdated habits from school. It's like, man, I read something. And while a lot of the stories didn't apply to me because a lot of the business books are written by white men who tell and talk about life from their point of view, I took the principles and was like, oh man, this is how it looks from Sheldon's point of view.
So I guess then we could expect to see some books coming from Mr. Banks in the future.
Eventually, yeah. I got some writings down. Eventually we're gonna drop one. I got I ain't gonna tell y'all the title until I got a title in mind.
All right. I'm gonna wait for the book. Title's nice. I'm gonna wait for the good stuff inside.
Yeah.
All right. All right. That book search is on the money. Yeah, you could do it too. I was going to ask Shelton to give the list, but just Google it. Just tell us the search.
Sure,
What's the search, Shelton?
let me see. Let me see. Jobs. I'll put the Google search in there.
So he's going to drop it in the chat, or he'll tell it to me. I'll put it in the chat for you guys.
When I say books.
That book search is on the money. Yeah. Saved you a whole lot of money too. Speaking of someone with an MBA.
And it's funny because a couple of articles came up. My two favorite ones are at the top of the list. So I'm gonna put the articles actually. So it's this Medium article. What you got?
Okay, you gonna put it in the chat?
Put it in.
All right. Okay.
I can. So yes, if you Google, if you books to read for an MBA.
Books to read for an MBA.
Yeah, that's the Google search.
Okay. All right, guys.
Books to read for MBA, and it's a article by Medium. It's 13 books to read instead of doing an MBA.
Okay.
Another one by Medium that says 10 books is value as an MBA. The third one is if you do the Google search again. So the two articles by Medium.
The second one from Medium was what? 10 books to read? The first was 13.
10 books, 13 books.
The second was 10?
Yep, second was 10.
Okay.
And then if you put in my favorite, this is the first, I don't know, my favorite is, actually, sorry. So this is the Google search. Put hustle, HUSTLE, books to read for MBA. That first one. That first article that comes up was the hustle.co. Read these books instead of getting an MBA.
For MBA. All right, guys, you seeing it? Yeah. Oh, you're welcome, honey.
Yeah, that's it right there.
Hustle books to read for an MBA. And the first search, though I'm not a 70s baby, was top companies. Wait, top jobs for a 70s baby. Well, somebody born in the 70s. I mean, for 80s. Sorry, I'm giving it all up. I'm 74, guys. You know I have no shame. For the 80s babies. Yeah. Well, some of you 90s babies going to need to do that search right now. Because that search you did, Shelton, what, 8 years ago, 7, 8 years ago?
And when I tell you now, I knock out books left and right. Man. This is coming soon, y'all. I don't want to put it out there, but I want to put out this
top jobs for 80s baby. Thank you, Lasanya.
I want to put out this this thing called cheat codes. I'm all about cheat codes, and so Cliff Notes was a thing back in growing up. You use Cliff Notes book. Yeah. So like I'm trying to compile a whole bunch of Cliff Notes that when I read the books, I take notes and kind of like take the biggest takeaway. Yeah. I've been trying to put together a list of all the big takeaways from each book, so you can just get the cheat codes. You get what you need.
I love it. All right, cool. So we're gonna go to my 3 questions, guys, because you guys just have comments, which I love. I'm not, but if you do have questions, drop them in. Cheat codes and life hacks. Yeah, I love it. All right, so
books real quick, and I'll be like, here's a cheat code from this book. Cheat code from this book.
Yes. All right. So my questions, we're going to go to my questions. So, Corona Days Professional Development Group, we are here to serve people from marginalized and BIPOC communities, right? We provide free training, mentorship opportunities. We want to increase access. That's what we do. We want to increase access in the workplace for people who look like us or people who are different than mainstream. That's what our mission is that we want to increase access. So I ask everyone this question, and so here you go. Mr. Banks, have you ever been marginalized? Can you share an experience with us?
If I ever been marginalized recently, like
I mean, you can say anything you want.
How you define marginalized? Just so I can make sure we
It's
understand.
how you define marginalized.
Oh,
Placed
okay.
at the margin, right? Excluded, placed at the margin, not included,
Yeah, how about
overlooked,
yeah, how about
ignored because you weren't in the end. So however you want to,
yeah.
I checked out his LinkedIn and it is on fire. Oh, shucks.
Have I ever been? Yeah, I've been marginalized before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, I've been marginalized. I've been marginalized a lot. I mean, yeah, profile marginalized, setback because I was a black man. Like, yep, I've been in it. I still land there sometimes. What about it though?
No, I asked the question. I asked everybody the question.
Okay.
White, black, I don't care who you are, disabled, fully able, whatever it is. I asked everybody the question because we have a lot of people all over the world, who let an experience of marginalization take their power and render them paralyzed, right? And so whether it was I wanted to be a this and I was marginalized and I never went forward to become that, or I didn't get the opportunity that time, so I never went forward another time, whatever it is. We also have people who are currently in situations where they're being marginalized, right? And that's why I asked the question. I asked the question so that people like yourself who have, reached great success, right? And much more is coming your way. And I especially love when it's people like you who not only have achieved success, but you're keeping the door open and you're opening doors for others, right? So that they can see that someone like you have, like you said, so many you ain't, well, last week maybe, right? But it doesn't paralyze you. It doesn't stop you. You just keep going. And they get strength and encouragement from hearing that, from seeing people like yourself, like, you're no longer Shelton Banks doing it for my cousins and my family and right? Like there's so many other people with eyes on you now.
Yeah. So let's talk about this marginalization real quick.
Yeah, come on.
You want to talk about it? All right. So yeah, So this situation when I first got a Groupon, right? So I'm like, man, I had management experience prior, and so I was told that I didn't have the experience. I was told that I didn't have the experience, and it's just like, man, y'all hiring less. And after I got in, it's like I'm like some bad people in. There's some bad managers in here. Like some people manage stuff around here, and it's like, man, y'all wasn't gonna let me, but y'all let this. Like I know I'm better than this person. And y'all about to play me on this. Like I don't got enough experience to. I was highly upset, and that wasn't the last time a situation like that had happened. Right? So but I think I got this mantra, right? Where it's just like, somebody's trying to box you in. Like you said, the line being drawn. Like somebody will always put you in a box.
Yeah.
Right. And boxes are actually not that. Boxes are actually good things. Like boxes are actually like okay. Like they provide a level of structure, right? Where it's just like structure, and for the most part, like if you could figure out the rules to the box, right, you could do quite well. In fact, every company is a box, right? It was like, here are the rules that you can play on. So boxes are okay in themselves. The problem is that some people will try to put you in a smaller box, which is cool.
Yeah,
because you just make them get you a bigger box. That's it. If somebody put you in if somebody try to put you in a box, that's cool. Make them put you in a bigger box. In the case of Groupon, well, it was like, hey, we're gonna put you in this small box. You don't got enough experience, and so we're gonna put you in this small box. I'm like, bet y'all about to pay for this bigger box. Like, don't worry about it. Don't even worry about it. I got you. You're gonna pay for it. I need stickers on my box. Like I need, so y'all about to decorate this box because I'm about to, and they pay for it. In fact, they encouraged me to go to this other position because it was cheaper to pay me more.
Get you out of that commission position, right? Yeah, no, buddy.
It's cheaper to we want you to manage that. It's cheaper for us to do that than it is for you to be doing this, right? Or we gonna have to change some stuff. So look, you're gonna be marginalized. That's cool. It's gonna you should expect it. You shouldn't go into a company bright-eyed and bushy-tailed thinking it ain't gonna happen. There's something wrong with you if you think it ain't gonna happen.
That's true.
Look, so if you walk in knowing like, all right, It's gonna come. I already know how we gonna play this game. Somebody gonna put me in a box. Let me find out. Like, go ahead, hurry up and throw the box at me so I can figure it out. And, I'll be back.
Let me see what Latanya says here. His story, such a genius young man. Oh, I love it. I love it. I'm gonna go to Latanya's question about LinkedIn. So maybe you can get, everybody wants the LinkedIn cheat code. What is the secret to getting noticed on LinkedIn?
It depends on who you got to be intentional. So who you trying to get noticed by? It really depends on who you're trying to get noticed by. You probably shouldn't. That would be my first question. Like, who you trying to get noticed?
Be really intentional.
Right, you got to be really intentional and strategic about using LinkedIn. You can't get noticed by everybody. Like, clearly, I would say you probably the last person. Interestingly enough, and I know this is counterintuitive for some. The last people that you should be trying to get noticed by is recruiters.
Yeah, this is true.
The last, like, you should not be using LinkedIn to get noticed by recruiters. Like, whenever I hear like, oh, people got to use LinkedIn, like LinkedIn is a great way to get noticed by recruiters. Like, that's a true statement. LinkedIn is a great way to be noticed by recruiters. You should not be using LinkedIn to get noticed by recruiters. Like while the statement is factual, a person shouldn't actually be trying to do it. You need to and now it just depends on what you're trying to accomplish, right? So if you are, now it just depends on what you're trying to accomplish. And to that, I wouldn't even say adding value. Like, you can take, like, so the cool thing about LinkedIn, right? If I'm talking cheat codes, everybody on LinkedIn is trying to add value. Now, if everybody on LinkedIn is attempting to add value, who's supposed to get the value? Who's supposed to get it, right? Because everybody want to be an influencer. Everybody wants to be everybody wants to be something, right? And so, like, you kind of like, how do we reverse engineer this of like, man, how do I like get something? And by getting something, they give me something. They give me more than what I want, right? It's this. And so here's how I use LinkedIn, right? Right now, it's a tip in sales. Sales, right? It's a sales tip.
Sales guys.
It's called okay, not okay. Right? It's taught by Sandler. It's a Sandler methodology. It's okay, not okay. So now, if you have to think of, like, on LinkedIn, if you're reaching out to somebody and you're working, like, you're trying to build you're trying to be strategic about building your network out, so that by building your network, a recruiter reaches out to you. If you're being strategic like that, which one do you think you want to be? You want to be okay, like completely okay, or do you want to be not okay? Which one would you rather be? Okay or not okay?
Drop it in the chat, guys. You want to be okay or not okay? Y'all in there, I see you. They don't want to respond to that one because nobody want to be wrong.
No, I mean, look, you trying to reach out, right? You strategically trying to reach out to somebody. You trying to build a brand. You trying to get hired.
I don't want to be okay. I want to be more than okay.
You want to be right.
I want to be more than okay. So I don't want to be okay.
You want to be more than okay.
I want to be more than okay. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody? Latanya said not okay. Right?
Yeah, not okay. I want to be more than that.
Yeah. So I'm at. So you want to be okay, is what you saying.
I want to be more than okay. So I don't want to be okay. I want to be better than that.
You want to be not okay, right?
Yeah, because I want to stand out. That's it exactly, Latanya. You said it. I'm just supposed to be okay. Go ahead. Tell me the tip.
Right. I want to be not okay.
Yeah.
No.
No.
You're not.
You don't want to stand out?
If this is okay, right? Is there a better than okay?
That's what I want to be.
There's nothing
better.
Nope. So it's either okay or I'm not okay, right? So if it's okay and this is not okay, right? And my face is the middle. Where do you want to be? You want to be okay or not okay?
Okay. You done said not okay, so I guess I better not be okay. I don't know why, but go ahead.
Right. So, like, I want to be. So here's the strategic one, right? It's better if you're building. So, right, if you're building your brand, you're talking about cheat codes, and you got all these people that want to deliver value. I want to be not okay.
Okay.
Right? You want to actually be not okay, right? You almost want to be in a position where all these folks that want to deliver value will now help you out because you are not okay.
I see.
That makes sense. And like it's a strategic. So let me ask you this. You watch movies?
Yeah.
You do? You're a movie watcher?
Yeah, it depends on what. Which ones you gonna drop on me? Let me see.
I mean, I'm just saying, but you've been watching movies long enough. You good with actors and names? Okay, so it's this actor, man, the dude.
You good with actors and names?
No, it's the dude that I Am Legend, I Robot.
Who? Will Smith.
Yeah, see, I know who Will Smith was. You right? I got him pulled up.
You had to look him up.
No, I had him pulled up, right?
Oh,
but
okay.
Just now, how I was not okay. While I was like trying to struggle, I
helped you.
You helped.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, I get you.
You see, I just explained to you what.
But this is funny. This is interesting because I don't. It's funny because my whole strategy with LinkedIn, everybody knows I need stuff from you.
Yeah, see, but that's okay because all right. Yeah,
I'm coming out to ask for help.
That's your strategy, right?
I'm coming out to ask for help.
For people that's looking for work, for people that's like, all right, man, I'm trying to grow my brand, or I'm trying to get somewhere. Like asking other people, being like not okay to other people will help you get to being okay, right? Where it's like, man, if I'm looking to get a job somewhere and I'm trying to get my foot in the door, I'm probably gonna reach out to somebody who has the job already. And be like, man, can you help me out? Point me in the right direction. This is what I'm trying to figure out. And I ain't talking about I'm trying to get hired at your company. Like I'm trying to figure out like this. It's something random, right? And then all of a sudden they try to help you. And they be like, oh, you know who you should talk to? Let me introduce you to my friend so-and-so. And so-and-so be like, and you ask the same, like, can you help me out? Can you point me in the right direction? And they say like, oh, like, you know what? That's a great question. And then they make a post about you and say like, man, can y'all give so-and-so advice? And now everybody on LinkedIn that wants to
helping you
value is now saying like, let me help you out. Let me help you out, right? Like, and now they feel good about it. Now they posting about you like, I just helped so-and-so with this. I just helped so-and-so with this. And all of a sudden you got like 15, your inbox is blowing up from all these people like trying to help you. And then you got the folks that will really try to help you and be like, oh, let me, like, you know, I got you. I saw you needed this. I'll take care of that for you. And now all of a sudden, this is like, man, just the floodgates are just opening up all because you was vulnerable and you just was not okay.
Yeah, I love it. Guys, you have any more questions? Because I'm going to my next. We call them a thought partner.
Y'all the thought partners.
Sometimes. I'm saying sometimes we call them a thought partner. All right, so while we're waiting for them to see if they have any more questions. You guys have been dropping great comments, but if you have any questions, we're getting ready to wrap up soon. I have 2 more questions for Shelton. I have 2 more regular questions and then 2 fun questions to leave. Again, I'm asking my fun questions, guys, because I will be having giveaways throughout this Professionals of Excellence series to a number of people who are able to guess the correct number of right questions from our presenters, correct answers to the questions. Okay, so I love what he had to say. Oh, here we go. Sorry, no questions. Okay, that's okay. It's all right. I got enough questions to go around. All right, this is one of my regular questions. Everybody gets this one. Shelton, if you could go back in time, anytime, I don't care if it's last week or 10 years ago, tap a younger Shelton. What does your family call you, Shelton?
Shelton. Family calls me Shelton. Friends call me Perry.
Perry, okay. A younger Shelton or Perry on the shoulder. What would you tell him? Knowing everything you know now. One thing.
This is always a funny question to me. This is like this is always a funny question to me. Do y'all really think younger Shelton will listen? Because younger
he ain't gotta listen. He don't gotta listen, but but what would you tell him?
I'll be like, keep going.
Keep going?
Yeah. Keep going. Shelton, keep going. Like, look. I'll be like, man, you just keep going, bro. Like, you about to hit some roadblocks. Like, but just keep going. Like, yeah, this is tough. You ain't gonna like a lot of this stuff, but just keep going.
Keep going.
Just keep going. Like, keep this same energy, dude. Like, keep it.
I like that one.
Because otherwise, like everything else, I'm like, oh man, here's a piece of advice, man. Don't do this. Younger Shelton be like, he told me don't do that. I feel like whenever I hear that
But
question,
you
I'm like,
see,
yeah,
a good thing is not a don't. We all know ourselves. If you tell me don't do it, that's the first thing I'm gonna do, right? So it might be okay. Keep going is good, right? Yeah, it might be going down that block. I don't know. All right.
keep going, bro. Like keep
Yeah.
out, because like don't give up.
Listen. Yeah.
Because even now, if an older version of me popped into my life right now, like, hey, shit, I got something to tell you.
Be like,
Go. So an older version of me popped up, I'll be like, man, I don't like.
be like, you ate something bad last night, right? Like, I'm going crazy. I ate something bad.
Keep.
Okay, Latanya has this one. I wonder if you could figure out when you ever decided. Maybe it just came naturally. When did you decide to use Jay-Z and rap culture to set yourself apart in the professional world?
After reading the book, so I read one of the books on that list of like read these books instead of getting an MBA is Titan: The Life of John D. Rockefeller. It's kind of like an autobiography of Rockefeller. Anybody familiar with Rockefeller? Not the Jay-Z Rockefeller, like the oil mogul, hip hop Rockefeller. Interestingly enough, he didn't have a college degree. He also was one of the founding members of two HBCUs, the white Mongol Rockefeller. It was like his thinking around it, right? Of like, and so you like Jay-Z, like Rockefeller, y'all. It's kind of like, all right, let me go ahead and like you talking about Jay-Z and anybody like listen to music and motivated by music. Jay-Z got two songs, Moment of Clarity and My First Song. So, my first song by Jay-Z on the Black Album. And it's just like you go at everything like it's your first song. Like, man, anything I use is gonna have a reference to music.
I love that.
You know, it's gonna have a reference to me.
My first song.
You know, I did a marketing post not a while ago. My headline in LinkedIn used to be a Drake, like the sixth album. Like, if you're reading this, it's too late. If you're reading this, it's too late. Oh yeah, look, get at me. And people would hit me up like, okay, like people that knew, they knew, you know.
Oh gosh.
They just like, what is this? Like this is, I see the 6 with the prayer hands and this bad font. Like, what is this? And it's like, oh, it ain't for you, man. Like, don't worry about it.
All right, guys, drop them if you got them, because I'm going to my 2 fun questions and then I'm going to my final question. So drop them if you have them. Now, this is an easy question, so you all should know this one. All right. Jay-Z or Nas?
Jay-Z. Oh.
I know. I'm giving them a freebie.
No shots at Nas, but it's just like, from his story, like it's like similar, and it's like almost like I like him so much because I'm like, all right, for a black dude coming from the hood, like what are your options, right, to get out the hood? And not that like getting out, because I can go back to the hood, but what are your options of like getting to a better life and making money? It's like I could go be a rapper. And it's like, man, that's success. I could go be a ball player. All right, that's success. Or you Shelton Banks and be a CEO philanthropist that makes over 6 figures and donates to other nonprofits and helps other people get jobs. Like, I feel like that's success too. So like,
yeah, that is.
Shelton Banks, I ain't in, we sure he in a different income bracket, but like not in a different lane. Not as far as like rock star, like all-star status lane. Like, the only difference is our income brackets, and I get there. It's like I get there.
Yeah. All right. This is my final fun question. It's not so fun, but I needed another one for my little game. I need 7. All right. So, Hawaii or Jamaica? Hawaii or Jamaica?
Ooh. Ooh. Hawaii or Jamaica? You
and your wife, no kids. Hawaii or Jamaica?
Ooh. Man, that's hard, man. I gotta go with. I've been to both, so.
Okay.
I I'm gonna say Jamaica, right? Just because
Jamaican.
culture. I get some oxtails from Jamaica. You can't get the oxtails in Hawaii. They got some other
What you gonna get some spam tails, some spam oxtails in Hawaii? Let me not. The Hawaiian people don't come for
stuff
me,
in
but
Jamaica.
y'all know how we all love the spam.
No,
Um,
Hawaii got they got grilled muffins. If anybody ain't sleep on some grilled muffins, that's the thing. Mm.
Rashida, that's because you a New York City girl. Me too. I can't decide. It just depends on what it is, what day of the week it is, and what's going on.
No,
Because
you got for the food though. Now some roti bread and some oxtails. You know,
yeah, I couldn't decide Jay-Z and Nas Rashida. That's because we New York. He's from Chicago. You know, that's a different thing altogether. But I got you. All right, so guys, oh, here we have a question. Great, I'm glad you got it in, Alex, because once I say the last one, that's it. What is your next professional development goal?
Hmm. Professional development goal. I would say I got two. So I want to get this book out, right? So I get into a point where I'm like comfortable just like knocking this book out is one professional development goal. And then the other one, so I'm trying to become a venture capitalist. You know,
Mm.
that's on the that's on the list of things to do. Uh,
Mm.
and so I want to become a venture capitalist, and there's some things that I need to do to get there. And so more books, more books.
Well, yeah, he said he has the book. He has the title, Latanya. Yeah,
Draft one.
he's doing it. All right, I love this. And we've been going for an hour and 16 minutes, guys. So this is it. This is my question, my last question. Naval is my man, provincial capitalism.
Yeah, but I'm trying. I got you. I got yeah. I I want to do a little different. I
Something
got some.
different.
I like different stuff. You know, like I like Latanya. Man, Latanya, connect with me on LinkedIn. Latanya.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Get really connected. Latanya get really connected with you.
yeah, I holler all the time.
Really connected. All right. Okay, so this is my final question, guys. So it's
Can I add a question in there? Just
oh,
can we?
go
And
on.
I don't know how they go because it's on LinkedIn. Where is it streaming?
LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. You have people on every channel. So if you're trying not to get nothing out, don't say it.
Look, I mean,
Got people on every channel.
I'm like, look, light or dark, light or dark liquor. What you like? What you drinking? That's what I want. You drinking light or dark? And
Oh
I'm like,
yeah, I could. That could have been a question.
like,
Yeah, white or dark?
whiskey guy. I'm like whiskey all day, whiskey and scotch. I'm dark all day,
Dark all day.
dark all day.
All right, guys, you hear that? That was another one. Light or dark? Only some people know what that is.
Light or dark.
Light or dark liquor. He
Yeah,
shows dark. All right.
I like my drinks to be older than my kids. You know, that's how I like. I need a drink older than the kids I got. I need some.
I love it. I love this this comment. Let me throw that up there. Uh,
Oh, thank you. Who else gonna do?
yeah.
Nobody else gonna do it with you. You know, that's the thing. Don't expect nobody else to. You know, people sometimes I feel like I talk to people and coach people sometimes where they just like feel entitled, like the world owe them this level of like nobody believes in me, and it's like, yeah, like nobody cares. I'm like, show don't nobody will care about you like you care about yourself. Nobody gonna have the same amount of confidence in you that you gonna have about yourself. And I ain't saying like that's you unstoppable when you can't get help and you can't get better. But at the end of the day, when you start like, you got goals that you're knocking out, you're like, man, I hit a goal. And like, boom, I set another goal and I hit it. And it's just like, man, that's my confidence.
Yeah,
Like, I've been
yes.
knocking out goals. I've been throwing back goals since throwing back been a thing. Like, and so it's just like, even in my losses, I strategically like I'm not okay, and I'm okay with admitting that. Like the confidence in myself, like if I'm not okay, I'm quick to be like, I'm not the smartest person in the room. Help me out here. Like, if I was going to interview one day and somebody was like, can you do this? I'm like, probably not, but I can. Like, like you got to lean on that. Like lean on that.
But that builds it builds a lot of credibility when we admit those things. I've been in a lot of situations like that. throughout my career, and it helped me in leadership positions say I didn't know. You know, I remember even a colleague of mine, we were a senior management team, so senior leadership team in the organization, and I said publicly in an email, oh, I don't know, but we're going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out, okay? And he came running to my office like, and I was like, he was turning red. I'm like, yeah, like, it's okay. We don't know. You don't know. I don't know. We're here in Africa. We're trying to figure it out. And we're going to figure it out with the team, right? And it was just like unheard of. And I got kudos for that from everyone, including, you know, back home, the folks in the US. But it was just he was younger than me. So it wasn't like he was an old school dude, like, we just don't do this. I just was like, no, look, I don't know. You don't know. And we need help. And the people are looking at us for answers, and let's tell them. And so that definitely got me a lot of credibility in a number of situations. So I love that you admit that, because many people in leadership will never say, I don't know. They will, not only will they not say they don't know, when they mess up, you know, they won't.
They won't. Oh no, I get that quick. I thought I got fired.
Yes, like, oh, yes.
All right, I go. Yeah. I used to go on interviews. They're like, "What happened to the last job?" I got fired. And they're like,
"Yeah,
what do you want me to, you know?"
Yeah, impossible, not possible. Yeah, not impossible. Yeah. So, okay, guys, this is my last question, and this is it. So, I agree, being humble. Okay, let me throw this one up here. All right, considering everything we talked about today, everything you shared, if you had one takeaway, Shelton, just one, if anybody watching this, someone just said they just logged in, they're just catching it, right? So for that person, they're going to rewatch the whole thing. What do you want any viewer to take away? What's one thing you want a viewer to take away?
Ooh, man.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I think when I was younger, I wanted to be successful, right? And I knew what that kind of looked like. It was like, man, I want to be in business for myself, and I want to make money, and I want to help people. And so everything that I do is with that in mind, right? Was like, that's why I was, and I said, like, this is what I want the end to look like. And there's a book called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Mm-hmm. Right. Habit number 2 is starting with the end in mind. Mm-hmm. And so if you don't walk away with anything else, I hope your moment of clarity from this is like, you know, like whether you've been fired before, whether you job hop and sold Cutco knives and Kirby vacuums like myself, and you know, you know, whatever your circumstance is, like let's go at this next, whatever you do next, let's start with the end in mind, right? Where you're like, man, if my goal is to get with the end in mind, is like, man, I actually want to make 6 figures, and want to, you know, have a family and whatever happiness looks like for you. All right, let's reverse engineer that and start. Let's start the next project with that in mind. Of like, all right, how can I? This is going to get me one step closer to that, right? And so even if that means like taking a step back in your career, right? If you're trying to, like, if you know you've been at a job for the last 7 years and you ain't moving up, but they paying you $60,000, $70 measly $1,000, but you ain't going nowhere. Is that really going to get you to the end in mind? Because if it ain't, then maybe you need to slingshot. Maybe you need to pull that thing back to go forward. Maybe you need to go somewhere else, right? And knowing that if you go somewhere else, you're asking the questions like, all right, well, how fast will I be able to progress? Can you see that? I'm like, all right, well, then let me go somewhere else so I can go start with the end in mind. That's my...
I love it. And that's usually my last question.
All right.
But this is because it's you and everything you shared. And so, guys, you know I never do this. Okay. So what do you say, Shelton, just because of everything we're coming out of with, you know, pandemic, what do you say to someone, or even if we didn't have the pandemic? I am, how old are you, Shelton? You about 30, 33, 34?
33.
33. Okay. So what do you say to someone who says, well, dang, Shelton, you're 33. I'm 33, but I'm where you were at 23 right now, what do you say to them?
Hurry up. like, hurry up.
Can they do it? Do you say like, it's not too late?
Hurry up, man. You got plenty of examples. And it's like, man, that's the thing. Like, I don't know what. I don't know. It's the examples like the dude on Shark Tank where what's the rich dude, Mark Cuban, right? Where he was 22, 23, wasn't rich. Mark Cuban didn't get rich till like the last 10 years, right? He was past 22, 23, and like boom, he like did something and made it, right? Like in this generation, this day and age, like you kind of really got no excuse. You don't got a college degree, I'll just get you an article with all the books that you could possibly read, right? Like I'll run a nonprofit where I'm like, you got a barrier. Like if you come to me and be like, oh, help me out with my resume, I'll help you out with your resume. Come to me and be like, help me out with my interviewing, I'll help you out with your interview for free at that, right? I'll help you out for free. And so it's just like, I don't want to hear those. I don't got no, like, like it's either the hurry up, right? That's great. Like one
again, because I wanted to ask you about sales for the culture, but here we go. So guys,
salesfortheculture.com, check it out.
Yeah, you're gonna have to salesfortheculture.com. I forgot all about it. Now I see my note now. I was supposed to ask Shelton about that, but we've gone way long. I thank all of you. I thank you all on a replay. Please let us know you're on a replay. If you have not connected with Shelton on LinkedIn, connect with him. And if you need him, it is get@shelton.com, right?
Get at sheltonbanks.com.
Oh, sorry, get at sheltonbanks.com. I'm sorry. All right, guys.
.org and some folks will reach out to you. But yeah, get at me. Get at me.
All right, guys. Thank you for coming out. God bless you. Good night.